Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my Product Chat series. Today, our guest is Gagan, who is not only a great friend I met at University of Washington, but he's also one of the founders of PM Club at UW and recently started working at Microsoft as a product manager intern. Today, we are going to talk about how he landed his first internship at Microsoft and his experience so far. Hi, Gagan. Thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me today.
For sure. Let's start with your journey. So, can you share a bit about your background and how did you come across product management and why product management?
Sure. So really, I started off with a big interest in business. So I did the Running Start program here in Washington, which allows you to do community college while you're in high school. So I got my associates in business, realized I wanted more technical experience to really align more on like the innovative end. So I doubled up with an informatics degree, and that really led into a great segue into product management, which was business and technology combined. And so far, I've been really enjoying it. I mean, it's really something that is entrepreneurial in spirit. And I think having a level of that type of experience also helps you get into product management. And it's just something I've really enjoyed so far is being able to work with a lot of different stakeholders,
Mhm.
having a level of like technical experience and being able to work on something innovative is something that really like drove me into product management.
I like that. Okay. So, what steps did you take to prepare for the product management internship at Microsoft?
Yeah, so this was something that, I kind of stumbled into. Like I wasn't sure that Microsoft is something that I for sure was going to
Yeah.
work at. Like I would just apply every single week. The second applications would come out, I would just go and be like one of the first to apply, try to get a referral if I could. And one of the key things that I think really helped me was having a group of friends that you were kind of going for the same goal, like a product management internship. So anytime a new internship would come out, they would give me a text like, "Hey, did you see like Atlassian just dropped their internship?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no way!" Right? And they would give me some advice if they had any, and it was a great just to have that type of community to be going towards the same goal. So I think that was like the key experience that helped me kind of prepare for like the whole application process. And I think the key advice I would give is to make sure to just know around the time when applications do come out and when they do just check the job site daily or so just to make sure you're one of the first to apply because at the end of the day these tech companies look at applications on a rolling basis, so the earlier you apply
Yeah.
the higher chances you get to actually being viewed. So having a referral probably also helps, but I think applying earlier is what really differentiates you.
Okay. It's some really good points. So one of the things you mentioned about having a group that could, motivate you or tell you about the applications that are coming through. How did you come across that? Did you find that group like through University of Washington, through your like any other I would say club out there?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So a lot of the people were just like friends I had from high school or like the University of Washington. But I did find a lot of people through like Slack channels. For example, there's like the product Slack channel, the product schools Slack channel, and then the second one was the University of Washington Product Management Center. And those two Slack channels were really helpful in just finding other people that were like trying to do mock interviews and things like that. So anytime I would see a message where someone like was preparing for an internship like interview, I would reach out to them like, "Hey, let's get on a call, let's do a mock," and then that would just kind of set that initial like relationship, and then we would just kind of follow through and like help each other out whenever we found new positions. So that was really exciting just to have that type of community. And I'm in Seattle here in Washington, but I had people in like UCLA on the East Coast that were like working together on this with me, and it was like a really just a great kind of experience to have that.
Yeah, so true. Networking, I think, is very important, not only with the experts out there, but definitely with people going through the same journey. The other thing that you mentioned about the referrals, how did you go about the referrals? Did you try to find someone already in your network, or did you try to reach out to someone like completely new?
Yeah, so I honestly at the time I didn't really have too many people in my network that were like working in tech. So Something that I really found helpful for me was just like using my pre-built community. And this is something that one of my mentors gave me great advice for is like, hey, you know, at the end of the day, if you have a pre-built community, like from your culture or so, go out, reach out to those people. Like someone else from your community probably helped them get to where they are. So they're happy to help you get to wherever you want to go. So I would always just reach out to other people from like the Punjabi culture or, like the Punjabi area
Yeah.
and would help me out like with a referral or just any advice that they could give me. And I think that was a great experience for me to be able to kind of connect other people in my community, but also go about kind of getting referrals and getting into tech.
Okay. I like that. So how did you approach the entire application process, like from maybe from hearing them that they want to screen you and then towards the interview stage?
Yeah, so this was something that I think starting in August. So early August, I applied like the second day I think that the applications opened with a referral. The first time I got reached out to was around end of August or early September, where they were like, "Hey, we're gonna do a recruiter call." And so
Mhm.
a quick 30-minute call where they had like 10 predefined questions that they would ask you,
Yeah.
something like what's your favorite Microsoft product, why, and just general behavioral questions that dealt with like stakeholders, kind of relationships or like data analysis, things like that. So pretty fast paced interview, I'd say for the first round. They had a very strict time limit. These recruiters were probably going through like hundreds of people like a week. So they were like really fast on those questions. They wanted these to be super duper concise. Um, by the end of that call, my recruiter told me like, "Hey, you did really good.
Mhm.
For the next call, I would prepare like this." They didn't tell me like I passed, but they kind of indirectly told me like, "Hey, for the next call, I would really focus on this." So he gave me some great advice, and when I came down to my final call, I came like really prepared because I was doing all these mock calls. I was doing a lot of research on the side. So the final interview consisted of 4 1-hour interviews,
Wow.
and those were people that were in my org currently. They're not like my direct managers or anything like that, but they're people that work pretty closely with my manager right now. So these were, I'd say, pretty fast paced as well. There was like one interviewer who like just asked me like very like basic questions. We just had a normal conversation, but the other three were pretty fast paced. One was like very product heavy, two were
Yeah.
very behavioral heavy. So not too technical for my end. I think, I'm sure other teams ask way more technical heavy questions. Me specifically, I was within cloud operations and innovation, so not too technical on the interview process.
Perfect. Okay. So how did you like, I know that it was not very technical heavy, but I'm sure you already prepared for it as well. What resources did you use when you tried to prepare for the interviews?
Yeah, so I had a good amount of mentors like going through the interview process, some that I met to the University of Washington, some just off of LinkedIn or like previous companies that I worked at.
Yeah.
And one of the mentors told me PM Diego on YouTube was a really good resource. So I would watch his like YouTube videos, and one of the key videos that I found really helpful was like the framework video. So that just helped you kind of go through any product design question,
Mhm.
whether it be like, design Uber for kids or what's your favorite product, why. And I use that for every single interview. I had it, written down in my kind of notebook, and I would reference that during my interview. So I think that was like the key thing. Other
Okay.
than that, the Slack channels that I talked about were really helpful, just being able to ask for mock interviews and things like that. Exponent was really good, and I'm not endorsed by them or anything. I know no one really is, but they're a great resource, and you just use the free version. Like you don't really have to pay like the 30, 50 per month, whatever it might be. Like I think the free version has enough to kind of keep you covered. And I think the key thing I would say or suggest is to just say yes to any interview that comes up during the recruiting
Yeah.
season. You apply to a lot of things. You probably applied to 100, 200 different companies, and they'll reach out to you. And like, even if you think, you weren't a good fit or you don't think this company is something you want to work for, you would just, I would still say yes to that company just so I could at least get like some level of experience with these behaviorals and get better practice.
Mhm.
But it still allows you to kind of get to know the interviewers, like what they do and everything like that. So I would say it's always good to just take any interview that you get, even if it's a role that you don't want, a company that you don't, look forward to working at.
Yeah, really great points. The most favorite one is just taking any interviews out there. I remember when I was going through my interview journey, like for my internships, I took an internship for a very, I would say, smaller company that was like a startup. And the questions that they asked me was very technical heavy. And I just did it, just I really wanted to do it just to
Yeah.
get experience of it. And the exact same questions were asked in my future interviews, which actually landed me a great opportunity. So, a
Yeah.
really great point. Thank you for sharing that. The other thing I want to ask you, what's a day in a life of a product manager intern at Microsoft? I believe you're almost halfway through, right?
Yeah, this is actually my midpoint week. I have my checkpoint like tomorrow. So it's been great so far. I mean, I think Microsoft's a company that is very heavy on like work-life balance, but still kind of moving your projects forward as an intern. There's a lot of different intern events, but I think as a product manager intern at Microsoft, specifically within cloud operations and innovation, which kind of, powers Azure, like open AI services and stuff like that, it's really business related, but it's requires some level of like high level network, technical knowledge. So I would say it isn't something where you apply technical skills on a daily, but just having that high level knowledge really helps you kind of drive your project forward in a better manner. And I'm specifically working on a supplier governance program, which would pretty much help quantify the supplier for performance for the fiber cables that kind of run these data centers that power Azure cloud, et cetera. And one thing that kind of stuck out to me working at Microsoft compared to other companies was that there's a lot of stakeholder meetings that you kind of use or like discovery calls
Yeah.
to kind of drive your project forward because there's so many different people. And as a product manager, the key skill you need is to be able to align everyone and kind of get the different pieces of like information from all these different people. And I think that's the most time consuming part of
Mhm.
your day. Like for example, today, I came here at like 8 a.m., but I have calls from 10 to 3 back to back, just talking to different stakeholders, getting the different pieces of information I need for my project. And I think that is one of the key differences between other internships I've had in the past versus a product management internship at Microsoft.
Okay, that's interesting. And what's your most favorite thing, or I would say least favorite thing as a product manager?
I would say my favorite thing would be to be able to work on something innovative. So being able to drive something forward and having an impact and being able to see it from start to end.
Yeah.
I think the least favorite thing would be kind of like I said, like having those back to back calls. I
Mhm.
mean, I enjoy talking to all these different people, but like there's a time where it gets hard to focus on the project itself and not like the one-on-ones you're having all day. So I at the end of the day, I enjoy all of it. I love working on Microsoft, but the key thing is like, hey, I need to find time to be able to work on my project. And I think that comes with experience, right? Like being able to block off my calendar, kind of manage my time more efficiently as a product manager. So I think that'll come with time.
Yeah, I think it's the same everywhere with any other company as well. I
Yeah.
used to work for like two different companies as a product manager, and I faced the complete same issue. But at the end of the day, you just have to find the time, maybe
Yeah.
early in the morning, at the end of the day, in the middle of the day, anytime. Um,
Yeah.
did you have any expectations when you came to Microsoft as a product manager, which you think was not the same thing? Like, did you expected something else as for an internship?
Yeah, I mean, I think Microsoft prepared me really well, like going through the interview process. After I got my offer, they connected me one-on-one with a mentor that really helped me realize what I was kind of getting into.
Okay.
So I think my expectations were pretty aligned, but before the whole interview process, I was like, oh, it's a product manager management internship at Microsoft.
Mhm.
Like what even is that? Like, I bet I'll be working on like Bing or like, like a new feature that no one knows about. But I think at Microsoft, something that they do is like PM is a very varying like title.
I agree.
One PM could be working on like a AI integration in Bing, while another PM could be, making sure that all the data centers are connected with the fiber cables and, all the suppliers are aligned, right? So very varying type of job kind of roles and with the same title at the end of the day. So I think that was the key thing that struck out to me is like there's a lot of PMs at Microsoft and they all work on very different kind of activities and tasks throughout the day.
Okay, I like that answer. Are there any specific resources, books that you would recommend to aspiring product managers, knowing that there's so much competition nowadays? It's so hard to get into any product management, be it an internship or a job. Any books or resources that you would suggest?
Yeah, I think I would agree with what you just said. Like it's like it is challenging. Like I remember my freshman year at the University of Washington, I would apply to a lot of these different interviews or like these positions for a PM internship. And I, would go through these interviews, have like the product kind of questions, and I would get a feedback like, hey, I don't think you're a good fit, or you don't have enough technical experience was like the key thing I would always hear. So I think just being able to interview and take rejections is a key like skill to have, is like being able to take that rejection and get feedback wherever possible, right, and kind of building off of that. So I would always hear, hey, you don't have enough technical experience. So I went out, applied into the informatics major,
Mhm.
and now I'm double kind of degreeing with informatics, and I think that really helped out. But the key resources that I would suggest during this interview process, it was like a product manager at DocuSign that recommended it to me, was like the normal cracking the PM interview,
Okay.
decode and conquer. And I will be honest, like I read both of these preparing for Microsoft,
Mhm.
and I'm not sure how much value I really got out of them. Like they're really good resources. I feel like everyone, really pushes for them. But I would say the key kind of resource through those was the behavioral section within cracking the PM interview. I
Right.
would recommend, if you were to read both of those books and you only had like 30 minutes to read, just read that part. I think that was the most helpful thing for me personally, but I feel like everyone has different opinions.
Yes.
Other than that, like I said earlier, the PM Diego product design framework was the key thing that really helped me learn the whole product design question. I think if you're going for a product management interview, that's something you'll always get asked, is some level of product design.
Yeah.
And knowing that framework, I think, is really key, and being able to apply it, like do mock interviews and actually really understand like the inside and out of that framework. So that would be the key resource I think kind of helped me personally.
I agree. So with the books, I completely agree. I read like more than like 20 books.
Yeah.
But there's only like some chunks of the book that I really like, not like the entire book stands out to me. One of the books I recently read was a very generic book, What Customer Wants. And it was not a product management book specifically, but just knowing how the customer, I would say, thinking works, that actually helps you to make like a strategy for any interview out there. The other question I have is, have you encountered any challenges which you think you could have prepared better when you were like, I know you're still a student, but anything that you could have prepared better before the internship?
Like preparing for my internship.
Yeah, not like for the interview phase, but when you went to the internship, like when you're working right now.
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I think for internships, at least, like there's everything you need is kind of given to you. Like I think once you get the internship, as long as you're able to kind of put the time in, put the effort in, like your managers will make sure that you're able to succeed within your role. So I don't think there's anything that I could have done earlier to kind of prepare better. Obviously, it's nice to have as much experience or like as much like technical knowledge as you can. But at the end of the day, I feel like if I feel like, I'm not doing well on something, or my manager gives me feedback, like
Mhm.
there will be steps to help me improve, or like some level of resources within the company to help me get to where I want to go. So I would say, like, just as long as you're able to get your foot in the door, like you're in good hands and you're able to kind of learn whatever you want, right? There's a lot of resources within any company that you kind of go into.
Okay, that answers my question. Second last question.
Yes.
How would you rate your skill of networking on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, I think that's a great question. I think I don't really focus on networking specifically. Uh, sure, I'll, like make friends, or like, I'll go to these events at my school, but I would give myself like a five, maybe. Like, sure, I'm on LinkedIn. Like, I find people that I'm like, oh, they seem interesting. Let me go connect with them, send them a quick note, something like that, right? But once again, like, I think most of like my like referrals or something like that come from like reaching out to my community on LinkedIn or people already knew, like, for example, like if one of my friends happened to work at F5 as an intern, they're able to give me a referral, right? So kind of just having my friends there, and I don't really kind of reach out to people to get on like coffee chats or anything like that, but I could see like that is something really helpful that I should probably kind of integrate just to be able to kind of learn from people's experience and things like that. But
Yeah.
at Microsoft, I've definitely been really kind of um, progressive on like reaching out to people, learning what they do in their role, and just like kind of figuring out the company overall and seeing where I want to land, like in the long term.
Yeah, it's always good to hear people's opinion, even if you don't require anything from them. But just hearing the journey, I think, is helpful. Um,
Yeah.
is there anything else you would like to share with the audience, like for the aspiring product managers that they should do just to get their foot into the door for product management?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me at the college level, still being a student, like, I've this is my first ever product management internship at like Microsoft. So, I think that's like the level of advice I could give you is like how to get an internship. And for me, the key kind of thing I did was taking roles that, might not have product management, the title,
Mhm.
um, because a lot of times they end up like having direct skills that transfer into something like that. So for me, as I said, freshman year, I was applying to a lot of these product management internship. I didn't have any luck. I was able to get an area management internship within Amazon. So this was directly within a warehouse. I was working 4 10-hour shifts every single day. They were close to like 13 hours a day, but it was definitely not something that you could say is product management. But getting done with my project there, it turned out I worked with a lot of different stakeholders. I had a level of like technical project. I used Python to kind of build an internal staffing tool for the warehouse. And that wasn't anything that was mentioned in the description, the job title, anything like that. But it really translated directly into like a product management level experience. And it's something that I've used to kind of interview for Blue Origin, Microsoft, like right now, and I'll be at Cisco for the fall. And all of those were really just like based on this experience that I had at Amazon. So I would say, take experiences that don't have PM in the title because I think PM is a very overused kind of title. A lot of times I feel like companies will just put that in the title just so more people apply for it.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of different roles that will give you just as much experience. So I
Yeah.
think that would be the key thing I would tell myself if I was kind of going back a year or two to kind of focus on.
I love this advice. I cannot emphasize enough on this. There's so many roles. Like, for example, I worked as a pharmacy technician. It's very easy to translate that into a product management role because there's so many things that a product manager does, and maybe like some chunk part of it, I did it as a pharmacy tech. So it's very
Yeah.
important that you mentioned that. Can you tell me, since you mentioned about Cisco, can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So I'll be there this coming fall. So right after I finish up at Microsoft, I'll take the fall quarter off to work at Cisco Meraki, which is like their IT, cloud managed IT space.
Yeah.
Uh, that is, once again, more aligned within the IT realm. So I'll be a part of management intern there, working within the SD band team. So very network kind of security heavy. That's all I really know for right now. Really excited to see kind of where that journey takes me. And yeah,
Perfect. That I think sums up all my question. Again, thank you so much. This interview was, I'm sure this is very helpful, not only for me, but a lot for the aspiring product managers out there. And good luck to you for your remaining internship at Microsoft and the journey at Cisco.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time at the end of the day, being someone in college, who kind of went through the whole internship recruiting process. There's a lot of things that I wish I knew when, I was first applying.
Yes.
And obviously I feel like in a year or two, I'll feel like I wish I knew a lot of things now. So
Yeah.
it's always good to kind of watch, things like what you're doing is like all of the podcasts that you're making and learning from other more experienced people than me. So really want to say thank you to you too, to like kind of have this resource that you're putting out there for everyone to watch. And it's been super exciting to kind of see your progress as well. So thanks for taking the time today.
No worries, but that means a lot. Thank you.
Of course.